Hey, you guys, welcome back. It's Lucid, and I'm joined once again by Sai.
Hello, I'm Sai.
Yeah. And this is part two of turn one. Gosh.
Aren't we turn 3?
Oh, yeah. Well, the first real turn three. You're right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So let's get into it. Last episode, we covered a few of the nations. We're deep diving, talking a lot about the builds, shooting the shit. So, yeah, our timing is, we're working on it. But this, just showing the battles. We got to talk about the builds at some point. And so,
He's working on it. I've just gamely accepted that I'm going to ramble.
yeah, I'm cool with that. I just have to make, apologies and stuff to the viewers who are going to be agitated at hour-long videos starting at the beginning. Okay, so this is T and
I
Chi.
don't know, like, why else do people watch Minions
I
videos
know.
if not for this kind of deep dive?
Okay, magic weapon, shock resistance 15, fire 15. Now, this was the build side where he
Or
was like,
10,
these
yeah.
are, this is like a thug build.
Yes, he labeled his pretender that it's 4 thugs, and he actually lived up to it. That said, you don't need magic weapons on your thug build.
Right.
But yeah,
They get,
the unaging,
this is kind of weird unit because
reinvigoration.
they get magic bows, but they don't get magic
Yeah.
other things. So,
Yeah, the bows are very cool on those guys. I like them. They fear and yeah,
yeah.
they're really cool. I mean, in general, like in practice, any kind of like heavy cav archer unit like this guy, look, they're going to be doing their killing in melee, and you know that.
Right.
But having a fear effect on the bow is actually pretty high value for just like reducing the morale on the units that get hit tagged by it. Even if they're not going to run away, just having that lower morale means that as the squad starts actually like losing units to those lance charges, that they just rout that
Mhm.
much more quickly.
Yeah. And I know one of the things with Tianchi is you're never going to have any idea how he's going to use his horsemen. Sometimes he's going to have them running in charge. Sometimes they're going to all be sitting there shooting until they run out of ammo and then they charge. So, you know, you get more, if he's in shooting mode, you get more value out of it. Interesting here. He's picked up swamp survival and mountain survival. Those are pretty,
Those are definitely not blesses that you see all the time,
yeah,
but they do make sense from a thug perspective
right.
because their thug units are not actually naturally very fast. And you most likely want to give them the boots, the messenger boots, which give them reinvigoration and some plus mat move. So
Yeah,
the penalty that you see there isn't quite going to be as bad because that old age penalty is going to be
right.
smaller, but they do still have that baseline armor penalty. And most likely you're just going to give them a helmet, maybe a shield. And then if you're giving them reinvigoration boots, then they'll get a little bit of extra plus mat move from that.
Does it have an aging here? Yeah, it does. Okay.
Yeah. That was what had
Yeah.
sold me that, oh yeah, this is
So
actually a
yeah,
thug build.
if you change the armor and yeah, with the unaging, there'd be 16. That means they're gonna be moving pretty
You
briskly through, well, maybe not 16, but they'll be
Yeah,
14.
you don't change the armor most
I got
likely
that.
unless you're like, yeah, because the starting armor is actually pretty decent. Like it's 17 base protection. But you just need to give them a helmet and then most likely a shield.
Yeah, but if you don't get rid of the armor, they're gonna 12. Yeah, I guess that's gonna be mat move 2 through friendly, including what now? Is this force survival? Was it? Or was it mountain?
Forest and
Forest
mountain.
and mountain.
Sorry, swamp and
Swamp and
mountain.
mountain. Okay.
Yeah, but they're also gonna most likely get a bonus from reinvigoration shoes.
Right. Right. Okay. So very cool. Takes his province with almost no losses. Just look at how he scripted it again, real quick. He's got the archers forward position, which I like.
Yeah, THG's always very good at expanding though.
Yeah. That's just clean.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Arethea, we've got the first double expand we've seen. So they have this expander. This is the first expander we've seen also.
Yeah, like I mentioned last episode, this is one of those builds that's just like generally very good. Like with Arithia, like having an expander just makes your early game that much more reliable because the sooner that you get those forts down, the sooner you get rolling. And the Merm is just a very reliable early game expander. Just
Yeah.
very high base protection, great fear. Berserk gives its already really good protection. It adds 5 more to
Right.
that. So it's going to be at a whopping 27 protection once it gets angry.
Right.
This guy just really good at running around and taking provinces without taking injuries.
Yeah. And little things like Earth Power and Iron Skin. Sorry, now he's at 27 with that +5 from Berserk. Earth Power is going to put him up to 28. Iron Skin should put him up at 31. So that's ridiculously high.
Yeah, you don't even need that. I don't see this guy casting Iron Skin in the expansion phase at all, honestly.
Yeah, he didn't need to, but I just meant like for fighting
Yeah.
players. Like 31 is when you start
Oh,
getting, you put a Ring of Region on this guy and he can start like face tanking player armies.
honestly, in Erythia in particular, just because like you do have some Earth magic, but it's not
Right.
that high. You most likely use him as an E4 caster.
Oh, you think? Okay.
I mean, that tends to be the fate of expanders. Like after expansion, is that they're just casting your big Earth spells. Because Erythia does, like, I mean, they've got E1 basically,
Yeah.
or I think they can get a little higher with like, yeah, they get if they get good randoms, they can get E2 on the Dadus, and they can get even higher on their
They have nature
one of
mages.
the royalty. The Pearl Mages get N1.
Oh yeah, so they've got moss body casters too. So they could get in with
Yeah,
Fizz moss
I
as well.
yeah, I don't know if you really want to make a guy that can't use items into like if you really want to try to make that into a super combatant. Although I guess between like Phoenix Pyre, Earth Power, and physical resistance and Moth Body, like you can put something pretty hefty together.
Right.
Yeah,
These
it's
guys
just
are
that like
aquatic is the only
between
kind of problem there. But yeah,
oh yeah, they need Shambler skins or Robes of the Sea.
right. Which,
Um,
Shambler skins are going to be easy to do, especially if their job's to just follow around a pretender. But,
yeah. It's just that like you don't want them to just be casting and retreating.
right.
And if you're only using him in an army, then, you have to worry about anti-army stuff. But, just having a big Earth Mage is really good. And the fact that he's so durable gives him a lot of flexibility.
So attack and reinvigoration. What do you think the
Yeah, I mean,
thinking
those
is
are
here?
in. Oh, so okay, so it's mostly just incidental to the pass on the Pretender. Like you have an
Right.
Earthfire Pretender, so that's what you take. Attack's never bad, right? Like, that's just a percentage
Are
damage
the reinvigoration you
increase
think is for
functionally.
the
Um,
mages? Who are the sacred mages? Are the Dukados are sacred, right?
the da- yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the Dadus are sacred.
Okay. Yeah.
So, very valuable there. But, I mean, it's also pretty good just on those guys
Yeah.
just because they have heavy armor, right? Like, they've got
Oh my
9 base
God.
encumbrance, like that. They actually really value that reinvig.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that high. Holy shit. Yeah, that is important.
I
Does it
mean,
get better
be fair,
underwater?
I
Is that
think
one of their things? Like they have bad encumbrance on land?
I don't remember, but they actually function much worse underwater than they are on land because they don't have awe underwater and they do on
Oh,
land.
okay. All right. Well, that covers Arethea. Oh,
Underwater
go ahead.
yeah, underwater, you wanna use your hoplites
Yeah. Okay.
because they have piercing weapons, so they don't have a penalty,
Right.
and they still have just really good protection
Yeah.
and, like, just they've got really solid stats in general.
Okay. Atlantis.
Yeah, so this is the guy with the Ghost King.
Right.
Another one that I'm really excited for. You can check out his Blessed there too, just to kinda get a gauge for what high level pass are on the Ghost King, but he doesn't show much here.
PR
Like, he's really
and
just
dark
showing
vision.
nature.
So this is all
Yeah.
nature stuff.
Yeah, so I'm thinking so the nature is pretty cool because it gives
These guys that
poison
yeah.
resistance, which is very valuable for Atlantis because they naturally have these really amazing high protection units that will just all die to foul vapors because they're not sacred.
Right.
But it also might mean that he has a foul vapors caster himself because you don't know what low level pass he's got on that Ghost King.
And he hasn't deployed it yet. I think he's probably making an armor or something. What's their income? There's no water armor to make. He might be alchemizing to do like the astral armor.
He might be trading for it. He might be trading for it.
Yeah, he could do that too.
There are other players that he can potentially bribe to get that
Yeah,
early game
he would
armor.
need astral and his god to make that work though. So, but he could be getting a player to make it and then send them the item. Yeah, okay, interesting. Pythium. What is this? Is this a
Yeah, the
peanut?
other cool thing
Oh
about
my goodness.
this guy is his starting weapon, the Rod of Death. It's armor negating damage that does not scale off of
Right.
strength. So it's actually really bad against indies.
Right.
Kind of cool against like, certain enemy thugs and stuff, but not what you want to send against
Right.
just indies. I guess if you're just relying on your fear, it's okay. But then you really need to make sure that your protection is on point.
Right. So I just moved us along to Pythium and we ran into this bump here where they're running Rotarii into barbarians.
That's just a bad call.
Yeah.
Like, Rotarii are great. I really do value that kind of like gladiator expansion. I think that's one of Pythium's strengths and all the Roman nations in general. But barbs aren't I mean,
They do
yeah,
okay
like barbarians.
against barbs. Like
Yeah,
but there's just maybe
you
they
need-
got like a weird scout roll or something because 50
Yeah,
barbs
this
is
looks
not
like
going to
a-
go down to 18 Rotarii. 30 Retarii, I
Yeah,
would have cleared it. But then,
the size is too small,
yeah,
and I think that if you're running Retarii, then you want to be running them. If you're running, sorry, if you're running Retarii into barbs in particular, you also want some javelins in there, just because that's so high value. If you have something else that's going to be dying for you,
yeah. I mean, javelins are a really good pickup against barbs in general. Like these millites, you can slam them really hard.
yeah, they're not generally what you want, but in this one particular case, and against a couple other like tribal indies, they definitely get the job done.
Yeah. He's got
But I mean,
comitatus
he's
here.
whittled it
This
down a little
isn't the
bit.
starting army, is it?
I think
Oh,
so.
man. That's sick.
Yeah,
Comitatus are really
Pythium
good.
starting armies. Oh yeah, yeah. Pythium starting army is actually really
Yeah.
solid.
All right, so they take this. We'll just watch it real quick. See if he has some using the
Did they
javelins.
build one more? At 16, the count looks off. I think they must have made one more.
Yeah, okay. He might have just
They're not sent of
he might have
fire.
made as many as he could, and then to use up his resources, and then put the rest into. Is that fire?
They don't throw their javelins.
So that's actually a
Yeah.
call. A lot of times, if you throw the javelins, you fuck up the formation. So I'm actually a little, especially in small numbers like this, like when you only have 15 dudes, he may care more about these guys getting out of formation than about the javelins. And here it actually kind of
Yeah, and then
sucks because they killed the first group, right? Then that target's gone, so the AI resets and it's like, let's find a target. And it's like, oh, we have javelins. Let's throw them at these guys. And this poor fucker's stuck out alone. Otherwise, he wouldn't have died. So
Yeah, unlucky.
one of the really cool things about Pythium's kind of the foreign recruit nation. I think they can't remember all the things they get. Oh yeah, these guys, they can get outside fort walls. Comitatus, they can't. These guys
Yeah,
can.
it's the red shield guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Including, yeah, and the Solaris guys, you can only get outside
Right.
of fort.
Built-in fire resistance. Otherwise, kind of expensive.
The real value of their out of fort recruitment, though, is the Misties,
Yeah. Right.
because they're one of the only foreign recruit mages that's one commander point.
Right.
I think they might actually be the only one commander point mage, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, maybe. So the it'll be interesting to see whether you definitely is like if you're in a high skill game and you're playing Pythium, you're definitely planning on doing foreign recruit mages. What I'm interested to see is, are they also planning on doing foreign recruit troops to help boost up expansion, or just be ready for a first war? So that's one thing I'm going to be paying attention to.
Yeah, I see the foreign recruit troops as like a kind of a why not thing. Like, it's not like Soromachia where you can kind of like make that a focal point of your expansion,
Yeah.
but they definitely don't hurt.
Well, I mean, it's going to really delay your next fort timing. So I think if you go fully into like foreign troop and foreign mage production, you basically, the next fort you get is going to be somebody's capital. You literally aren't going to
So
have a
the-
year one fort if you fully.
So the
went
reason
into
that I disagree with that is that your troops cost so many resources that you can't spend that much gold
Right.
on.
And that makes the
Like,
logistics really annoying because you're like having to walk a commander around to like pick up you're gonna need 4 commanders walking around herding the 1 or 2 units you're getting into like common locations.
Yeah, that's why I was saying that, like, it's kind of a bonus. Like, you may as well get these guys,
Right.
but they're not really the focal point of your expansion. Like, Soro can actually do like a very raider focused expansion build,
Yeah.
and because they don't have the foreign recruit mages, so like you may as well spend the commander point getting that cavalry unit,
Yeah.
and the commanders themselves can also fight. So like, if you want to delay your fort timings as Soro, you can actually get some really, really impressive expansion just by focusing on these like cheap cavalry units led by expensive cavalry commanders that actually also go help fight, which is not what you do with Pythium. With
Yeah.
Pythium, the expensive part is the labs.
Right. Okay, so that's that column. And it's kind of interesting. The 2 foreign recruit nations are right next to each other, Tianchi and Pythium. So,
Yeah, no, TNG, they actually do get a little more value out of that foreign recruitment because they're not so resource locked.
right.
So sure, they still don't get that many of them, right? Because, they do have still a pretty decent recruitment and rec point cost on those heavy cav units, but it's a little bit more balanced,
Yeah.
and each individual unit is both more expensive and more effective.
Right. If you have 10 provinces and you're going to turn foreign recruit on in all of them, you maybe you get 1 to 2 units per province. So that's like maybe 15 units for TNG. I think that's about what it would come out to. It depends on your scales, but you need like 5 or 6 commanders at a minimum doing logistics to like herd cats, to like be moving them around all the time to like try to consolidate. It's like if you go foreign recruitment, you really have to invest in a small cat herding group of commanders. But you can,
Oh
15
yeah.
units a turn is nothing to sneeze at. Like 15 heavy horsemen a turn over the course of, 7 or 8 turns, you've got an army of almost 100 dudes.
Yeah, you also can get I actually okay, does LA TNG still get foreign recruit Masters of the Way?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can use those as your point buffers slash cat herders. Like basically that you set up your lab and temple, and then you also recruit your cav just in that province. And then when you get like a decent number together,
Yeah.
like 5 or 6, then you send your wizard out. And because he's also like a decent buff mage, he can just be a little raiding party that you
Yeah.
recruited.
True. All right. Let's move over to, oh man. Okay. Time to turn up the spiciness. Oh, wait.
Yeah,
Well,
this is a
sort of.
build. No, they've got a Hawkmeister there. You
Yeah.
can see the bless there.
So this,
Oh, and their prophet.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is going to be probably the craziest bless of the whole game. We have on
Yeah.
Late Age Ulm, which, in my opinion, normally mostly scales nation. At least that's the traditional kind of more meta way to play them. Not here. We have an Incarnate Awake Bless, Fire Shield 7, Blood Surge, Regeneration, and Decay Weapons. Now,
Yeah, and I think we commented last time that Stygian Skin would have been really high value for expansion and against player crossbows and mundane troops.
Yep.
But I think that is also an extra death point. So, like, maybe they just didn't think it was worth the scale.
it's also a really
to-
valuable death point. Like, Death 5
Yeah, no,
is really
I
nice.
agree.
Death 4, it's nice, but well, I guess you
I
could make a
agree.
skull staff though, right? He's got an archer. Okay,
An
so you can get up
archer,
to
yeah.
Death 5 to make the Death 5 booster, but
No, but I do 100% agree that very, very high value if you could have gotten Stygian Skin here. But still a very cool bless.
so I want you guys to do this. If you're interested or intrigued by this build, this is an Awake Rainbow. Go and make it, but instead of making it, put in Stygian Skin here, and you have a Citadel that can make 3 of these guys a turn, and you put them in groups at 2, and on hard provinces you combine them so that you have 3 or 4, and that's 1.5 expansion parties a turn, and it is ridiculous what they do.
You do still need to get some of your cap circle, and I think if you look at his scales, he's actually not like, fully sloth. I think he actually has some production. Right?
Yeah.
Because these guys are incredibly expensive in terms of resources.
Yeah, they're like 75 resources or something. But they have very high base movement. And with the armor penalty, it's 16, but that's still enough to 2 province move into planes. So,
And then because these are commanders, you don't need to worry about the rec point cost. Because
Right.
the actual sacreds do have both a high rec point cost and an extremely high resource cost.
Yeah.
But for the commanders, it's just the resources.
so what you're able to do though is you clear your cap circle real fast if you want to go try this build. And then after that, these guys can 2 province move out of the cap. One of the problems clearing your cap circle normally is you want to be out here contesting these, and then you have to waste the movement on every expansion party moving through a province you already conquered. But you'd be able to like 2 province move to here if you wanted to. Now this is heavy cabinet. The cave you couldn't 2 province move to, but he could 2 province move to here, 2 province move to here. And like Sai was saying, you really need to get the resources from your cap circle to really get 3 Hawkmeisters a turn, which is a pretty critical milestone for them.
But yeah, still an extremely creative off-meta build
Yeah.
that takes advantage of one of the things that people don't tend to think of as one of Ulm's strengths,
Right.
but absolutely is.
Yeah.
You could do something similar with Marignon's Paladins, but much cooler to see it here with these even tankier units.
Yeah, and Marignon's Paladins have the benefit that they're recruit from any fort, I believe, whereas Ulm, you're going to be limited to your capital. But there's really only so many of these guys you need to make, and Ulm's just going to be making mages in other places. So I think you get plenty of thugs out of your capital that you don't need to make them in other forts.
Yeah, and vampires.
Yeah.
The vampires are very effective thugs as well.
Yep. Okay. Xibalba.
Yeah, so Shabal is running a scales build, essentially. Like, he definitely has a bless here, the +3 defense, and +4 strength are both going to be pretty helpful on the Ocelotls once he gets those. And they also help his Bat Sacreds die a little bit less slowly. I don't think he's using them for expansion,
Yeah, I was just
but they're kind of like your answer to like early game threats. Oh, no, maybe he is. What are those guys in the middle?
trying to click on them and see.
Nope, nope. Those are all the regular guys. Sorry, my
Yeah.
bad. The Sacreds you can actually tell visually because they have like the gray armor, but with the wings on wings, I thought I saw it.
Yeah,
But yeah, no.
so-
But yeah, no, this is definitely a scaling focused build, which you're going to be seeing him focusing on like Xibalba's early game magic to solve some of his problems for him, rather than trying to, rely on Sacreds to do all the work.
because Lord knows he's going to have some problems. These guys have surrounded the commanders, and they're like, "Oh, we can't kill them. They'd be commanders," and then they finally barely manage to. And then we have the Xibalban special, which is losing all your units to the retreating army.
Yep. It's a pain in all eras. But because his prophet has 30 morale, he manages to take the province. Good job.
Yep. This is why you put your prophet in your starting army.
But it was worth noting that this guy got his hero right away.
Right.
So
Who is
he
this?
actually is
I don't
going against
remember.
He's a guy who has a book that gives a research bonus and allows you to summon Ocelotls 1 per turn.
Ooh, that's really nice.
Yeah, so
Especially
you'll
for
get
a research focused build.
the book can also be moved, like it's not a cursed item. So he most likely so Xibalba starts with 2 commanders, like their regular scouts are also their commander units. So he probably put the book on the spare commander and is summoning an Ocelotl.
Ooh, that's really nice. I mean, that could help a lot with expansion because part of the problem is, and it's one of the reasons you probably want to at least have some sacreds mixed in your army. These guys are not very killy, right? These are I think he had the ones with the
9 damage with a lance strike, but I think you start with those.
Yeah, no, these are the guys he was getting, right? The stone lance.
No, I think he got the guys with the club swords.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, it's hard to tell because
Yeah.
they have the same name. But yeah,
So these
those
guys
guys
hit
do
a little bit better. I mean, the problem is like in late age, things have about 14 armor a lot of times, and it's like, this just isn't as killy. Like, this is a fine killy weapon in the early age. In the late age, it's much less killy. And they don't have commensurate armor to sit there and like wait it out with troops. So it's one of the nice things if you mix some of the sacreds in, or in this case, he's got this guy who's going to be making Aussies. Like 2 Aussies in an army are going to make such a huge difference for just being able to make the enemy go away.
They also provide a massive morale anchor for your guys because they're not mindless. So you can mix them into a regular squad and they have 30 morale.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Jomin.
Yeah. So
I'm getting a little bit in front. For those of you who don't know, the Jomin special is these archers that you have in your starting army. They're not archers. They're katana men. Don't let the longbow fool you.
I mean, they're also actually pretty decent archers.
Well, I know. I just mean for expansion, he's doing this right.
Yeah.
He's got them on attack instead of fire. But yeah, they are good.
Yeah.
They are good archers.
And he's doing the cab expansion, which is kind of what you want if you are willing to take the time to like finagle your positioning.
Right.
Because the cavalry, so Jomin's infantry are very, very good. We talked
Right.
about this like last episode that like their guys just have really good stats, but they are very vulnerable to ranged fire. So just having your guys be faster.
Right.
And, these guys, they're, 1 fewer attack per square, but they have that lance and they've got the katana.
Right.
Oh, wait, no, they're not fewer attacks per square.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have a hoof, which is kind of weird for Cav. I don't know if that was intentional by Illwinter, but they definitely don't have a hoof, which feels weird. But the katana makes up for it by being 15 attack. These guys are surprisingly good at fighting indies. They're better than looking at the stats would make you like think, or than I would think when looking at the stats. I was like, man, their protection's meh, their defense isn't even amazing. They don't have a shield. It's like, why are they working in expansion so well? And I believe the answer is the katana.
So the other funny thing is that they basically have a worse lance. So the light lance is, for most nations, a reusable version of the lance.
Right.
Like if you look at gosh, what's a nation that's got a reusable light lance?
Like Sarmatia has one.
There you go, Sorrow. So like for them, that's their primary weapon. So they like have actually a pretty high length thing for repelling after that initial
Right.
attack. But for these guys, it's disposable like the actual lances. So for some reason, they don't just not have a hoof attack. They also have a worse lance for no
Right.
reason.
However,
Because Yeoman
like you
can't
look at
have
them and you're like,
things.
this is a handicapped, horrible cavalry. It's not good for anything. It's like the worst cavalry. It does great in expansion. So,
And it does okay.
I mean, it is pretty good. It's the katana. I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
Yeah. So the reason I say like it does okay is like there are actually really good cavalry in LA, and this guy does not hold up compared to them,
Sure.
even for expansion.
Yeah, I mean, I forget what the resource called. One of the problems I believe with Choman actually is their equipment isn't necessarily priced correctly for resources, but yeah, there are a lot of recruitment points. Resources, they're fine. I've done expansion with these guys. You can get like high 20s with Cav expansion.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, like you could definitely expand with them. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that like you can't expand with them as well as you can like Sarah Vanguard.
Right. Well, Sarah Vanguard we don't have a Raga in this game, but they've got a way higher resource point cost, right? Like they're like 50 or 45, 50. I don't know.
Sounds about right. But they also have just like, well, they have a shield for
Yeah.
one thing, but they also just have like really impressive stats in general. Like they have bonus attack and defense,
Right.
and they have just 20 base protection or
Yeah.
something crazy.
No, so
Like they have some of the best arm. Yeah. Okay, and they have superhuman hit points because they're like Abyssian half breeds.
Right. Okay, moving up to Arcos.
Yeah, so this was another one that I wasn't like super keen on because it seems like their bless is kind of pointless. Like if you look at the commander guy there,
let's take a
you can
look.
check out the bless, but like it's basically just a resist bless with some strength, which so if you want
Ooh, a
to go
tremendous
with
amount
like
of
a hub,
undying.
I'm assuming that he's taken this build for the pass, but I don't get it.
No, that's more than a
honestly.
casual
So
amount of undying. That's death 6.
that's Death 6. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Is like he took like Death 6 because he wants Death 6, is my guess. Because like if you're running like a hard focus or a hard companion focused build, the thing that those guys are good at is you have a bunch of them in a square, right? So like you want them to have either like aura stacking or like you want to give them more attack and like you want to basically give them some way to like kill better and some way of like having like out of combat survivability, which this build doesn't really do.
You mean like
because
flames from the sky out of combat?
yeah, like that and like area of effect stuff like trample,
Yeah.
which yeah, so like I don't like this build because it doesn't make your heart companions like good enough to carry on their own. And it also like you're basically sacrificing your skills for a bless that only is like partially useful. And all that elemental resistance doesn't naturally apply to your mages. Like you have to actually build shrouds if you want to take use of that for protecting your actual mage core. Which I guess you can do because you do have ubiquitous astral.
Yeah.
But like yeah, I just see Arco as being such a good scales nation that
So when
the scales
when
sacrifice.
Arco was playing Arco in the game you and Sackney were casting, he did a bunch of point buffs. And one of the things you can't really point buff that easily is the resistances. But I did a bunch of testing against Arco because, we went to war. And I was trying to figure out how to kill him. These guys, like even with 4 strength, once you have Legions of Steel, protection, I forget all the buffs he put on. But
He had Berserk as part of his bless.
that was
is
a
one
really
thing.
nice ad
And then
too.
he also had plus attack.
Okay.
So that actually helps a lot with survivability just because they have such a high linked weapon.
That's true.
So between attack and Berserk, he had like it was either +3 or +5 like from his bless,
Okay.
which this guy doesn't. Like this guy's just got that strength. And his like survivability plan is Undying, which I don't like because these guys are very expensive in cap only.
Right. But I mean, the thing is they pack so densely, like evocations and stuff. So while like it's not going to be good protection against battlefield wipes, it is going to be very good at protection against evocations. And we were looking like, how are we going to kill these things? Like, we gonna Thunderstrike them, or we gonna like, what are all the things we can do? They were fucking hard to kill.
Isn't it just air elementals?
I think they blend
Air
them
elementals
reasonably
master
quickly.
these
I can't
guys.
remember if you put ethereal on them or not.
Yeah, I mean that'll definitely help for
Yeah.
sure.
But I mean, these
But
guys
like
were
with 5
killing
per
air
square,
elementals with
getting
one turned.
these guys trampled is not fun.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and the plus attack actually helps a ton against air elementals as well, just because those guys have such high defense.
that's true. So yeah, this might be a little bit inferior to kind of what Arco was running, but it's got a ton of Undying. Like these guys are basically double hit points for at least that one combat. And if you put Regen on them, things could start getting crazy.
That's true. Yeah, maybe that's his plan, is a regen in order to pull those Undying guys back in after the combat.
Yeah. I mean, he could definitely point buff it with a gem.
Yeah, and he does have better scales than the build that Arco ran, but Arco was also running an Awake Researcher,
Right.
which was part of the point.
Yeah, he doesn't have that.
Whereas this guy's running more of a scales build. It's just this build seems like kind of a compromise thing. Again, I think that like these compromise builds are the ones that I like am having the most beef with,
Right.
because if you want to do something, like just do it, like actually commit to the bit. Whereas this is like very much a compromise build where you are actually like investing a fair amount into this fairly heavy bless, and you're giving up some scales to do that. But that bless isn't like going far enough in order to make these guys actually like super effective as like an early game tool,
Yeah.
such that it was worth giving up all those scales. That said, LA Arco is such a strong nation that I think this guy's going to still be able to do fine with this build, especially because he's not actually giving up anything critical to the early game.
Right.
So like he's still got production 3, so he can still definitely mass his units. He's still got some magic, so he's not giving up so much that like he's going to fall behind.
Yeah.
And Arco, like as a nation, is just strong enough that I think he's still very competitive with this build.
And I believe with that, I think we finished. So I think that's all the nations. So we've now, between this episode and last, we've looked at all the builds for all the nations. Who do you think has the best? If you had to play one of these builds in a game, who would you pick?
Vidiheim?
Vidiheim.
Yeah, so even not like going super into detail, I think that this is such a strong, flexible nation.
Yeah.
I'm always happy playing Vidiheim. It's one of the few nations that I've actually played a game with after winning. Usually, like after I win with a nation, I move on so I can play something else.
Yeah.
Vidiheim is so fun to play. Like that's a nation that I would very happily go back to again. They're just really cool. With all their stealth options, they're very flexible.
It's like,
so
oh,
you
we
can
didn't talk about
often,
their blesses because
pick your fights.
they didn't show it this turn.
We didn't see it, yeah. But if you look at their scales, you can at least get some idea to how committed they are to their bless. We know that the reason we don't see his profit is that he profited his starting assassin.
Ooh.
So he's north assassinating. This is a very scales heavy build.
Yeah.
It's running luck, which I actually think is cool if you can protect it. Like I said before, like I see luck 3, my eyes go red, I want to take the provinces. But that's being a little, what's the word?
Facetious or
No, it's a reductive.
Yeah.
It's being reductive. Like there are cases where you can actually get a lot of value out of your luck. And Vidiheim is a nation that can actually survive and thrive as a scales build. And the fact that he prioritized luck over growth is very appealing to me just because I'm such a luck fanboy and I like having it. And the fact that he went order with Sloth actually says that he knows how his units work. You need those recruitment points because those berserkers are crazy expensive. And of course, Magic 3, the absolute mandatory scale that you take on every Vidiheim build, regardless of how deep you go into your bless.
Because hags exist.
This is a fun.
I mean, you'd probably do it without them, but just the hags existing, it's like automatic Magic 3.
Yeah, so a very fun build on a very strong nation. I would be very happy to play this Vidiheim build.
Do you want to spoil it for us? What was it? Do you remember the build?
The bless,
yeah.
Oh, we haven't seen it.
Okay. Oh, like actually in the game, like current turn?
Yeah, no, he told us that he profited his starting assassin. So that was confirmation on that. We kind of can already tell that, just because the commander leading a starting army isn't profited. Right. And it makes total sense. Yeah. So he recruited that guy and then additional assassins turn 1.
Yeah.
So he's doing the partial assassin expansion, which is very fun and cool. Yeah. And Vidiheim's assassins are also one of the best recruitable, I would say they're the best recruitable non-mage assassins in the game. Because they have a Dusk Dagger, which is armor negating.
They're one of the best recruitable commanders in the game, like non-mage commanders. Like, you stick the...
Oh, yeah. You can put these guys in an army in order to deal with certain like thugs or super combats that you'd otherwise have problems with. Because they start with an armor negating weapon and they have 13 attack. Right. So they're hitting with 16 attack with this weapon. Then you're one of the best point buff nations in the game, so you can slam quickness, luck on these guys. Exactly. And with just those 2 buffs, they can go toe-to-toe with many super combatants and like
I
deal some
neighbored
critical damage.
Flegra, and he had like fully kitted tyrants running around. And I didn't end up really doing it against him, but I was worried he was going to attack me. And so I went and tested, like, how am I going to kill tyrants? Right. And
the answer is very easily.
It's, it was a little tricky in that you don't just send these guys at him. But I think I put because
You can also cast Numbness on Titans, assuming that you're talking about like the Phoenix Pyre guys.
yeah,
Like Numbness cripples those really
really
badly.
okay. I mean, I think they had Soul
Yeah, because
Vortex and stuff. Versus Vetiheim Soul Vortex, their Phoenix Pyre's gonna work real well.
kind of
Yeah, dude.
your guys have decent you guys have decent MR, and if you like drain their
Do you know? Do you know how many units? If you get surrounded by Vetiheim units and you've got like 20 something protection, you get like 60 hit points a turn from Soul Vortex. It's something stupid. So it's like 120 fatigue around. That you're
well, I mean, by the time that someone's casting Soul Vortex, you're also mostly using like skeletons and stuff.
yeah, but then they're immune to skeletons.
I guess
Yeah.
it's a matter of like matchup dependent stuff, but like you can definitely play Vatiheim without like
But yeah,
having a bunch of
point
Vati
being,
in melee with the super
a
combat.
few of
Yeah,
these guys,
these guys are very
with
good.
like a fire resistance item on them, like a ring of fire or something, and then you fluff them up with stuff. They can just go kill a flagrant tyrant. They're pretty cool. At least Dragonian tyrant. They're top end budget, like thug killers, super combatant
Yeah,
killers.
the real thing that Vatiheim has trouble with is air elementals.
Yeah, those are tricky. Yeah, that's kind of one of the things you want to consider for your first wars. You really don't want somebody dumping all their air gems on you with air elementals. Who would I want to play? I kind of dig the Atlantis build.
Oh, as far as builds go, Atlantis is also very cool. And then another build that I've complimented a couple times before, Pangea. I think like just going full scales is very good. And then they also just like have what's most likely a really cool super combatant on board.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very unique. Not perfect, but fun and interesting.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool things. Yeah.
And I mean, Marignon's running an Awake Researcher, so you know that they're going to pull something out early too.
We can hope. They don't really have
the ones
good early research. Like they don't have protection casters or ethereal casters, really, do they? Like, I mean, they could do.
They have ethereal. It's a random, but they do have ethereal as a 50% chart maker random. The one build that I would not want to run is actually Agartha. And the reason for that is that they are very vulnerable to certain early game magic with this build because they will have no answer to Foul Vapors, to super combatants. So if you're bordering someone who's running an Awake or Dormant Titan and you don't like, so like Aaron is very much a Diplo player.
Right.
So he's someone who's going to like try to be able to choose his own war just through diplomacy.
But by choosing his own war, he's a dogpile leader. Coalition isn't even the right word because coalition is like out of fear, right? Coalition is this person's running away with the game. He's like, let's get 3 people and go after this one. Let's get 3 people and go after this one. Like it's his means to eat.
Yeah, so with that like mindset, I can see why you would take this kind of build. But given that that's very much not my playstyle, with this build, I would feel as though I don't have counters to very many things. So I would just like, if I pick a fight and the person has a pretender that I wasn't expecting, I can just randomly die.
This would be a fun build to play in like a medium to low skill game. Because, maybe the occasional Foul Vapors comes out, but like you can kind of deal with it. Or, they'll have like a Foul Vapors caster, but it's not like you were describing earlier. Like it's not going to be the kind of Foul Vapors caster that is immune to crossbows, like if you're running into if he attacks you with like a huge crossbow stack, you're not going to do like a casual Foul Vapors cast, right? You're going to do something that's going to like destroy the whole army, right? And it's going to be immune to whatever he's doing via point buffs and armor and items and stuff. So,
but yeah, the thing is that it's relatively easy to get. I mean, because Foul Vapors comes with Skele spam, right? So like if Utgard, for example, either lucks into the right Scratty or designs their pretender to do this, like if they took like the Utgard Scratty pretender as a Foul Vapors caster, like they can just kill you.
Yeah.
And with this build, you can't defend against that. And my preference for builds is to be able to fight anyone early.
Right.
And this build is just risky that like you can run into these matchups where you'll just die. So that would be a build that I would be very uncomfortable with.
His best matchup is it? I'm guessing it's probably these guys.
Well, like you'd mentioned, his best matchup is going to be the one where other people do fighting for him. That's kind of what I expect to see, unless people are just like, let's not talk to this guy and shut him out from that perspective. Then
I think this is his best matchup. This is the only one I think he can just straight up win. there's
That's
no
fair.
units
I so
here
I
that are gonna like crossbows. He doesn't have to worry about Fel Vapors. The only thing he has to really worry about is air elementals.
yeah,
And he
so
could like maybe have some really weird hard thug
I
here,
should
but
also add that Aaron's a decent player. Like, he's not just Diplo reliant, right? Like, that's his preference,
yeah,
and that's what he enjoys doing. So that's definitely his greatest strength.
yeah,
But he knows how the game works.
yeah,
Like, he's capable. He's a decent scripter and all
yeah.
that stuff too. As far as like direct matchup goes, I also think that Utgard prior to Skeleton Spam, if they don't have a Foul Vapors caster, is also a viable choice. You can't rush them just because of their pretender, because he doesn't have an easy way of killing it.
I mean, sure he
But
does.
crossbows
It
against
doesn't benefit from the bless. He just hits it with crossbows.
I mean,
Crossbows will
isn't
blow it
it
up. I mean, it'll have air shield because it's an air pretender, but I think even then, I think they'll still blow him up.
hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that like you forward deploy that and then you have like some stuff behind it, but like
Yeah, I mean, if the crossbows
yeah,
run
I
out of
haven't actually
arrows or
tested
something, like once that,
I haven't tested
yeah,
yeah, I haven't tested that particular fight. But because I can't magic phase, it's only gonna be in the
right,
cap anyway.
yeah,
So like yeah. The wall guys for Utgard are kind of funny because they have like these like I think they use throwing weapons and then never run out of ammo, so
yeah,
actually
yeah.
wind up being pretty good.
So yeah, that may not work. Like if he keeps them in the outside the cap, it might be that you know Agartha can kill him, but inside the cap, it might be those boulder hurlers. Well, you could clear them out. That's actually how you use crossbows. You do fire archer, and you pick off the wall defenders first. But
Yeah.
then you might run out of
I mean,
arrows for the god, and then you can't kill it.
but yeah, I think that like with a regen only bless and without the production in order to mass your Jotun spearmen, which usually actually counter crossbows quite well just because they have such great stats and like a really solid
Yeah.
shield. I think that like Utgard would actually be a decent matchup too.
Yeah, could be.
And Marignon can go either way. Like you'll lose to Marignon's early magic, I would say. With an awake researcher, like in this case,
Yeah.
it's definitely possible for Marignon to get early research goals very quickly. So even if he goes for something like alteration or conjuration first, he can very easily pivot and just pick up evocation 2 or 3 right away. And then suddenly you also have these clouds to worry about,
Yeah.
which can just massacre Agarthan troops.
I mean, he could also hit a really early timing on like enchantment 6 and do Aerofend. But Agartha, strangely, this game might have access to Aerofend as well with these guys. So that could be really pivotal in this matchup. If it's a crossbow war.
Yeah.
Pythium.
He has one very bad matchup.
I think if you're
yeah.
Pythium, I mean, they've got really good shielded troops. They got Foul Vapors casters. They have early poison resistance.
They have I was about to say they have a national poison resistance spell, so they can cast Foul Vapors on their non-sacred units.
Right.
That's like a free matchup.
Yeah, I think these guys should. I mean, but they might want to go for Atlantis. That's the only thing. Pythium actually has a couple good matchups.
Yeah, Atlantis actually, interestingly, is normally a really incredible matchup for Pythium just because of that Foul Vapors
Right.
thing. But this particular Atlantis has a poison resistance caster.
Right. And he has poison resistance in his bless. So if he's and he is making Acertits. So
One of the only Atlantises that will actually won't die to Foul Vapors.
right. So yeah, in that case, if Pythium figures it out and Atlantis doesn't want to duke it out with them,
Yeah,
honestly,
I
their
think that
best matchup
Pythium
is
is.
probably going after Agartha.
I actually think Pythium is undervalued as an early game strength nation just because of how quickly they can hit certain research goals. Like I think early game.
Because I think it was after I did my tier list or something. We had some things where we're like, oh wait, what could we really actually do with Pythium? And like you can potentially. I think what somebody did. This is like totally a meme.
When,
but
when you
I
say
think
we,
they
you mean
did
like other folks?
the like inspiring researcher 2 Titan, like Awake, and then you just do like labs all outside your capital, and you send all your mages to your cap and Magic 3 plus inspiring 2, and you.
So that does work, but I think LA Pythium doesn't need that. Like it's very good without that level of investment.
Well, I
too.
know, but I was just saying the meme was
Yeah.
like, what timing can you get on Fog Warriors? And it was like, can you have a turn 17 Fog Warriors or something stupid?
Fog Warriors, interesting choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, like my preference for Pythium, like I mentioned last episode, is just Awake Expander.
Yeah,
Because then you get those labs out so quickly, and then you also have mage count higher. Because especially if you're doing enchantment first, you will actually need like a decent number of mages in order to actually like be strong at that research timing.
yeah. Well, Alt 7 also gives, so it's really like a turn 17 Alt 7, but that's also going to give you Potentially you could do, did they get death mages? I can't remember.
Yeah, Pythium's primary mage is a
They
death
get,
one.
where's these
It's
guys?
the
They can be astral. So you get
yeah,
astral death. So if you took something that gives you like spirit sight, you could have like an alt 7 timing where you're throwing like at turn 17, you're throwing up fog warriors, mass protection, spear, and then darkness. It's like, come and get it. Turn 17,
yeah.
hope you're
But
ready.
I'm more interested in stuff like year 1 or year 0 enchantment 5
Yeah.
because you have such natural, incredible synergy with foul vapors in particular that having that plus a bunch of Skella spammers, like that's already really strong.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Foul Vapors, though, is a slow kill. Like, if you have an inferior army and you're fighting into somebody that doesn't have poison resistance, but you do, and you're casting Foul Vapors, like, yeah, you're pretty much guaranteed to win the fight. But if they have better troops, you probably aren't going to win it super clean, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, with that plus Skella spam, which is again like
Yeah.
a national Pythium
Yeah.
thing, and they also get bonus poison resistance in their bless. Like you have like just like like the nation seems to be like pre-built to do this specific thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it has some real crazy aggressive potential. I hope we get to see it. And I mean, it looks like they are trying to do some research rush, so we might get to see something
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. Well, it's not my favorite way of doing that research rush. It should still be plenty effective.
Right.
Like it's and between that and the fact that they took Magic 3 but only Growth 1, like that the player is thinking about those early research timings.
Right.
So we might actually get to see a timing push, which is one of my favorite things of Dominions.
Yeah. Should be really cool. All right. Well, Sai, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And all you viewers out there, get stoked. We've now been through all the builds, so I know these episodes have been a little long, but we're gonna start, popping through these with, looking at expansion. I'm pretty sure we can do a turn an episode, and then I might even be able to get up to 2 turns an episode once we get a little bored of watching each battle individually. So,
Oh yeah, but between now and when the wars break out, we should be able to cruise right through these.
yeah. All right. Thanks so much. See y'all next time.